Well, hello and welcome to Crosswires. It is Jay, and today we are here in the cloud of Squadcast to talk about cloud gaming and cloud computing, but primarily gaming from that angle. But a few of the products we have do have a cloud computing aspect or have dabbled in it. So I am joined by my lovely co-host, my best friend and my partner, James. How are you doing?
I am doing good. I will not lie. I am incredibly tired. This is our second podcast of the evening. The first one was a redo of our WWDC coverage, which did go really, really happy with it. But it lasted a long time. This might... I will warn people, in fact, you already heard the episode. You might have already skipped it. Now, we do have a slight dilemma tonight. Somehow, my amazing co-host and partner has managed to book a guest who shares the pronunciation of her first name. And in fact, what Siri thinks her name actually is. So we've got a slight problem. And I want to make a proposal how we solve this problem. My Jay, my co-host and producer, is going to be Jay Beta.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay. And our guest is going to be J Alpha.
Okay.
There we go. I'm getting thumbs up from J Alpha. Now, J Beta, would you care to introduce your friends and our guests?
I got a question though. Are you going Alpha and Beta like a certain YouTuber?
Well, you see, I did think because of the other guest name, but maybe it made sense to let the guest be
Alpha.
J Alpha. Yeah. Yeah.
I see where you're going. You're not going in power dynamics. You're going in the Greek alphabet. Okay.
Yes.
Because I mean,
and also, Beta does kind of work with your surname as well, sweetheart.
that is true. That is true.
All right, after you.
I mean, with the beard that J Alpha has, Jay can definitely be in Alpha and all that. Because one of my friends I've known for so many years, probably 2000, over a decade now, that I've known is Jay. So Jay, how are you doing this evening?
Fantastic, Jay Beta. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, J Alpha.
This is going to go wrong very, very soon.
How about JA and JB?
Oh, I like that.
I like that. Yeah, that works.
Yeah.
That works.
And you brought your co-host, Omega.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So Omega, I'm trying to remember. Were you on the OnLive fan forums where I met where I met JA?
Actually, I was not. Unfortunately, I was not. By the time the JB and I, we were actually parting ways when we were working together. That's when pretty much we still kept in touch. We worked together for many years in the same company. When I decided to leave, I left first, but we still kept in touch. And then he left the company thereafter. He actually mentioned to me that he was finally happy working for OnLive, and he explained to me about the forums, the gaming, and I was very happy for him. So that's pretty much how I knew that he was actually working there.
Because I met Jay on the OnLive fan forums back. Jay first was running, doing a lot of like behind the scenes work for different things. Kind of like, I'd almost say you were a unofficial community manager for OnLive, and the fact that you were like trying to keep discussions going. You were doing a lot of like sparking discussions. You also started a podcast called The Breaking Point and all that, and about things including OnLive. But it was definitely like, I felt like you were one of the people that made that fan forum really cool. And I remember the day that you announced that you were working for OnLive, and I remember like you were just so excited. And for those who don't know, OnLive was a cloud gaming service started by Steve Perlman, and actually, Slopes Game Room has an interesting video about the history of Steve Perlman, about the history of OnLive, and it was quite an amazing service. That it was a service trying to be the last device you ever need, or the last computer you ever need. That you would buy apps, or you would subscribe to a service on it, and you would have access to the games on any device. And one of the things they had was a micro console that was like an HDMI box that you could plug into any TV, into NDTV, then connect to it with a controller. And did that one have mouse and keyboard support, or am I thinking wrong?
I don't believe it did. It had the Bluetooth for the gamepad and an Ethernet port. I think you could use Wi-Fi if you bridged it, like a bridge connection, maybe.
Yes, that's right. Because it did not have it did not have Wi-Fi, and it makes sense because Wi-Fi would have been very unstable on that. It was definitely, and I went all in. Like I saw this and I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And like I was on a Mac. I'm still on the Mac now, but I was on a Mac at the time, and I loved how immediately I started the free trial, and I was into Arkham Asylum and games like that without having to download. Or am I wrong on that? Was it in the browser or was it all app?
It was all through software, but this is a little behind the scenes thing. On version 2, in V2 of OnLive, we were working on a browser-based version that was, I think, maybe released as a demo for maybe a week, and then they pulled the plug. I don't know why, but yeah, that was the closest thing to the browser version.
And obviously, Jay, let us know if there's anything that we need to cut, because I don't know if you have any NDAs with anything.
Oh,
because
no. Not anymore. We're good.
Good. I just want to make sure because for those who don't know, OnLive, and we're going to talk about OnLive, but also how it relates to now. OnLive was bought by Sony, because remember, right, Sony bought OnLive and Gaikai and used the technology for their PlayStation Now service.
It certainly did. I think they bought the assets for OnLive, the technology, they implemented it, and like you said, merged it with Gaikai to make a PlayStation Now. So essentially, you're playing a customized kind of version of OnLive when you're playing PlayStation Now.
And what I loved about OnLive, again, was how easy it was to get into the software to play games, and I mean, even to buy games. I probably spent a good couple $1,000 on games for OnLive.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, the best thing that they implemented, though, was the Cloud Lift service, where you would get a CD key, a Steam key, with every purchase for backup.
I've still got some Steam, because that was especially with 2.0, they were adding that, and I actually got a few games I can play now, like Scribblenauts, with that, and that was one of the best ways, because they said they were kind of like, we might lose when they go under, and I think people saw the writing on the wall, but that OnLive was kind of bleeding money.
Yeah, I mean, the worst case scenario happened, but in the end, I mean, the customers that purchased through the Cloud Lift still have those games to this day.
Yeah.
So that was a good thought on their part, I guess.
Wow, based on what you guys are actually, what you all describing right here, right now, is actually, it sounds like OnLive was actually the OG of cloud gaming.
Yeah, because Gaikai was starting to come around, and one of their big things was being able to, for instance, on game trailers or game demos, immediately launch you into a game from the browser. And there was kind of the competing which one was a better service on latency. Because at the time, the biggest issue with both, and still one issue that we'll have now, and we'll kind of discuss that a little bit later, but is latency while you're playing. But OnLive was pretty amazing. Like I beat Arkham Asylum, beat a pretty good portion of Arkham City. James and Omega, since both of you hadn't been as much OnLive, what are some questions you have? Because I want to answer some like questions first.
That's a good question.
Pretty much back in the day when JB and I used to work together, and obviously that was just about the time the Facebook, it was also starting to become very popular and whatnot. And while we were working together, we came up with our own gaming forum, where I was actually had this service, this hosting service. It was magnificent. I was actually just paying about literally $69 a year, and I got all these amazing services, PHP, data, WordPress, every platform that you can imagine, so that you can create, whether it was a forum, a business, anything like that. And then him and I, we actually started looking into starting our own gaming forum. And we actually were able to upload these skins and stuff like that. So that's how we were actually starting to actually learn how to actually be into the forums and whatnot. And then Jay started to actually, not that it's a big deal, he actually he actually got so many things going on at the same time, and I learned so much from him, when he was actually learning about the codes of the forums, how to actually be an administrator, how to actually make sure to actually put rules and things like that, to the point that I was like, wow, you're learning so much in such a short period of time. I was like, I don't think that I can keep up with you. And then not that it's, again, not a big deal. When it comes to all these things and all these questions, if I happen to have any questions or anything like that, he's the person that I actually look forward to actually ask anything that we actually have to do.
Awesome. And I guess, because I remember hearing about OnLive and reading about it and watching reviews, and here's a question. What was the sort of internet connectivity requirement for that early day, when OnLive was new? What would people expect? What were you expecting people to have?
I believe at first they were claiming, nothing that like Stadia or anything like that right now is saying that you would need it. It wasn't too excessively high.
Right.
I think they were saying maybe about 15 megabits per second. I don't know if that sounds right, Jay.
So the minimum requirements, a network connection with a minimum bandwidth of 2 megabytes per second.
Ooh,
wow.
I was kind of close.
Do you mean just to be clear, megabits or megabyte?
Megabits and BPS.
Okay.
I always get that one confused.
That's fine. Which is just to put, for people who maybe are way younger than some of us, 2 megabits was fast at a certain point in the early 2000s to mid 2000s. If you had a 2 megabit connection, you were, doing all right. Yeah. I remember my school getting a 1 megabit line. I was like, oh my gosh, we've got a megabit. And
I think that was the era for the DSL modems.
Mm.
And I definitely know that the more you got, the better your internet was, the lower latency, because part of cloud gaming is that you're hosting the game on a data center somewhere, and while you're playing, it's sending you all of the game data, and then also trying to process your controller input, send it back, process the change, and back in a split seconds. So cloud gaming is an incredible feat, but there were some ways that there was definitely a lot of latency, and like you could definitely feel that with OnLive.
Yeah, there were mornings where, as a community manager, I had to stream on Twitch, and Saints Row 3 was, my gosh, it was painful. Like every morning, I would get up and I'd have to stream for like maybe 2 hours at a time, and I think you would show up sometimes, Jay.
Yeah.
There were a whole bunch of people from OnLive fans. I can't even remember all the names right now, but they would show up all the time. It was really fun, and you would have a genuinely good and entertaining and fun time with the community until just latency, pixelation, artifacting, and it would just get really frustrating after a while.
Yep. And sometimes it felt like it never fixed itself, and you would end up dying in the game in critical moments. I remember when they added, what was it? Some of the Dreamcast games. Like, what is the
Jet Set Radio or Jet Grind Radio? No.
Not that one. The space one. The
Space something 5.
Yes, and that game was definitely very much tuned for fast controller input. That game did not work on OnLive.
That's why there wasn't many any music games on OnLive. I imagine latency for music-based games and OnLive and cloud gaming probably not good. I don't think there's probably any that are on any cloud gaming services at this point. I'm not sure.
Wow. So with that, OnLive came and went because it was definitely a service that I think a lot of companies looked at because they liked the appeal, but they also saw how OnLive, again, bled money. It was a service that didn't get enough funding. They didn't feel like it was paying the bill because you got a play pack with like so many games, which kind of similar to the Game Pass you have now, and similar to like how we get with xCloud. But OnLive did not have the infrastructure the same way that like Google has their cloud, Amazon has their cloud, Microsoft has their cloud, and they definitely struggled with trying to pay for all that. I know OnLive started an online desktop side feature because they were trying to go after enterprise and they were trying to do things some of the MLM workstation. Biggest problem with them online desktop was you were very locked on what you could do. You couldn't just install anything. So enterprises were, and I know enterprises were trying. The other issue with OnLive was developer support because developers had to make a specific port of their game for OnLive, and it cost more developer time. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I remember what was it? Was it Shadow of
Mordor Rings? I think.
Yeah, Shadow of Mordor that had some glitches and some things missing in the OnLive version that were in the PC version. That was a big thing I remember was there. And OnLive had achievements. One of the things that I thought was so cool about OnLive, anybody could watch you play the game. They could watch while you're playing. Like I had a friend who would watch me play Amnesia. He would log in to OnLive and he would like in the evening we would chat on the phone while I'm playing Amnesia and all that. And he saw me die so many times to like the Karnak and stuff like that. So there were some definitely innovative features. But yeah, and then eventually Sony. Mm-hmm. The arena, yes, that was so cool. With like, you could see different people's perspectives in FPS games.
You can give the thumbs up or the thumbs down while they're playing.
Yeah, it was kind of doing what Twitch has started doing in a lot of ways with, and like the Twitch guest star bringing people in. It was doing a similar service, and that was really cool. It was cool to see people's perspective. You could switch cameras. So when OnLive was bought out by Sony, they brought the PlayStation Now, which again I still think is a really cool service. But I kind of want to talk about some of the state of cloud gaming now, and kind of want to talk about like the cloud gaming versus remote play services, because there are some remote play services, some that connect to a remote system or in a data center, but some also that connect to your home systems. So, for instance, like I would do PS remote play, and I would connect to my PS4 and PS3 through my Vita. I remember being like across the country playing Final Fantasy 14 on my Vita. It was That's playing awesome. on there, and there is a lot of really cool things in that regard. But like James has history with like services like Liquid Sky and Shadow.
Well, before we go into that, I just wanted to ask a question of J Alpha. So obviously, you mentioned Dreamcast games. Was this? What was going on behind the scenes? Were these Dreamcast games that got ported to OnLive by the devs, or was it a literal case of having? How did the hardware side? I mean, if you know, how did the hardware side work? Was it what we're looking at now in terms of these virtualized systems, or how? Because it strikes me that it doesn't sound as simple as that.
Well, regarding the library, it was a mix of Sega, I believe even Sega not Master System, but Genesis games. Like I think Altered Beast was on there too. Dreamcast titles. Being community manager, I wasn't previewed to a lot of things in general. But regarding the hardware and how they did it, I imagine they had to do some sort of porting like they do every other title that they would like have Jay mentioned. I don't know the actual process behind it. But I'm sure that it's similar to the way that you would port over any other PC title or console.
Right. So it wasn't a case, you weren't playing a cloud-based Dreamcast. It was, these games were ported to the OnLive service, right? I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, they were in there was a play pack feature where it was similar to the Game Pass now, and I guess PlayStation Plus with the free games, where you would scroll through it of a vertical bar of titles, and they were included.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. That's really cool, and it is very interesting to see how far we've come, which I guess is what J Beta is JB. Well, it's JB. JB's talking about, because as she said, I've got experience. When I moved to Mac, I'm like, I really miss gaming. I didn't really have a console for a while. And I tried things like with Liquid Sky, which went a bit sort of like, well, it worked, but then it took ages. I remember abandoned my Mac client and released a new version. I think they've gone now. I meant Shadow. And these are actual your own personal Windows-based PC in the cloud, which is very different to something like OnLive, which is a hosted service that enables you to play their list of titles. Whereas on something like Shadow, you can, it's a Windows PC, do whatever you want to it, install Steam. And would you say that is when we're defining what we mean by cloud gaming for this episode? Is it fair to say we're more looking at the services like what OnLive was, like Xbox Game Pass, like PlayStation Now, which obviously is effectively the evolution of OnLive? Are we more looking at that side of things and maybe as things like Switch Online's not Switch Online, the games on Switch that are cloud versions, cloud editions? Would you say there's quite a distinction there between those two sets of?
I believe that OnLive was unique in its own way in comparison to the current offerings, because not just the games were in the cloud, but the actual interface itself was all cloud-based. If it was artifacting or there was pixelation, your menus were even showing it. Those were lagging. And I don't know of any other service that runs like that. And it was pretty much like a walled garden service. You could only access the menu, the certain features that OnLive gave you access to that were all created exclusively for the OnLive service.
Right. Okay. So it literally was the whole thing was cloud delivered, whereas something like, for example, Game Pass on Xbox, the interface to load the games is all native on the Xbox. So even if your game's lagging, your Xbox menus for Game Pass won't be.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Well, but I know even xCloud has like a web interface, so but that might be HTML5. I mean, it might not be. Yeah, but OnLive is delivering everything in the cloud. Yeah.
Wow.
And it didn't have a browser feeling to it either. When you were playing using the interface, especially the OnLive version 1 with the arena and the square boxes everywhere and everything, and it was an interactive graphical user interface. Like you would see in the background little screenshots of brag clips of people playing while you were navigating your menus. It just seemed very immersive.
Yeah, and like I remember, I would take that everywhere. I would like when I went to my friend's house, I would bring my micro console with my controllers. I remember going to Florida and like staying at a room, and we hooked it up to the TV. I found a way to bridge the micro console to my computer for the internet, so I thought it was on Ethernet, and we would play it in the room. Huge artifacting, but we finished all of some of the Lego games on OnLive in that regard.
Wow.
Like we did a lot of that stuff, and it was cool because it was supposed to be your everything for gaming. That like no matter where you were, I know they were starting to get on Android devices, and I think there was an Android possible. The iPhone, because of different regards, there was a lot of issues getting iPhone stuff to work, and it's actually one thing that I'm impressed that I believe Stadia and some of these places, I'm impressed that they've been able to get iPhone clients. They did what OnLive could, because if OnLive could have cracked that,
Can I?
Yeah.
Should I?
Do it.
They did. They had an iOS app. It just wasn't getting approved. And during certain meetings I have, they were even considering uploading it to the jailbroken app clients like Cydia and things like that.
Oh, wow.
But they didn't do
That
it.
would have been great.
I wonder why. I mean, Apple's App Store rules were very weird in the early days. I mean, they're still a bit weird now, but
You could purchase games through their interface. I think that's what it was.
oh, that's why, of course, because that makes sense. Because Apple, of course, being Apple, wouldn't want anyone doing digital transactions on their platform without them having a cut.
Oh, of course.
And without getting into some libel, OnLive had an interesting founder and CEO, wouldn't you say?
Perlman, man, right? I mean, I wasn't there. I never met the guy, but like you hear the stories about what was the E3 and him blowing up. I think it was E3.
Yeah, and you have to wonder if maybe he wasn't helping with some of the discussions with Apple. You never know.
Maybe not. I mean,
hang on. Would this have been the time? Sorry to interrupt. But would this been at the time? Would Mr. Jobs have still been with us at the time?
No, sort of. Yeah, because OnLive left in 2011 or 12, wasn't it?
I think it was 12. Well, here's the thing. Like OnLive Fans, I looked at it today in Wayback Machine, was around in 2009.
Okay.
So we're talking
So
a
yeah,
while.
Gotcha.
and Yeah, so that would definitely have been in the jobs era, and as things were starting to change.
Yeah, I think I joined the beta in 2009.
Wow.
I think I was late 9 to 10. I was somewhere in that regard because I got my PS3 in 11. I got my PS3 after OnLive imploded.
Mhm.
When I got my PS3. But yeah, like it was incredible, and it's. I still have a fond memory to it, but I will definitely say I'm very skeptical because we just had another passing of another cloud service.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Google Stadia. So Google Stadia started as Google Project Stream. And it was doing a lot. I remember getting into the beta of that, playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey in my browser. And I was like, this is actually pretty cool. But I thought, Google likes to kill off services.
yes, they do.
Yeah, I was skeptical to invest much money in buying anything. I think I spent maybe like $70 on Stadia, but thankfully they refunded almost everyone, I think.
Which, that was incredible because, when OnLive went away, other than the games we did in Cloudlift, everything else, I still have a micro console at my parents' house that I need to.
I work for them, and I'm bitter. Because I spent money on games and OnLive, and I didn't even like it. It leaves me feeling very cynical regarding cloud gaming and kind of hesitant to invest money in games. Like if somebody were to try to resurrect the Cloudlift service from OnLive, where you every cloud-based purchase you make, you receive a Steam key or an Epic key as a backup, just in case something happens, I would be down with that.
Yeah.
And that's maybe the difference as well, isn't it? If we think about where we are today, I take Game Pass as an example because it's the one I really know well. That's a subscription. So you never own those games.
Yeah.
Whereas OnLive and Stadia, you were actually buying games. You were buying copies of games to play. It was BYOG, wasn't it? Bring your own games. Whereas OnLive, well, buy your own games, whatever.
Yeah, buy your own,
buy your own games. And again, I think that's a very interesting problem we have. Again, going back to the young child buying his copies of Alien Breed Tower Assault or the latest Lemmings game on floppy disk. Yes, floppy disk. I owned physical media. So even if Team 17 stopped making Worms for whatever reason, I still had a copy that I could play because they couldn't take that away. Whereas with OnLive, as you said, unless you'd gone through that Cloudlift option and gotten... And actually, even then, even if you had a Steam key, what's meant to stop Steam saying, actually, you know what? We've had a disagreement with the developer. We're pulling it from Steam, so you can't, even if you own it, you can't download it again.
Yeah,
James, that is a fantastic point. Jay, do you remember GameStop and what they supposedly did? Well, what was it, Deus, or however you pronounce it, X the game? They were supposed to come with a OnLive redeemable code slip in every game, console game, and rumor has it the GameStop had employees going through everyone, opening the brand new ones and removing the codes and just selling the game by itself.
Oh my gosh!
Wow.
Yeah, I remember that because yeah.
I mean, it is GameStop, so given I'm a UK citizen and not at all a US citizen and therefore not liable, it sounds like GameStop. Yeah.
I would say that them who, would sell you back used games would buy you used games at way lower than they'll sell back to their to the customers. And one thing that is different about even Xbox Cloud and PlayStation Now is that Xbox Cloud, and I think PlayStation Now, I have not used this one, but Xbox Cloud, you can literally play on a PC, play on an Xbox, then go into the cloud, and your save data goes between all three. And I think PlayStation Now, if I remember right, PlayStation Now at the time was like a PS3 in the cloud for you when you were playing it. So you could migrate your data from the PS3 on the cloud. And I actually moved some of my data from a local copy to a cloud copy and back and forth. Whereas like OnLive, it was all on the cloud. Even if you had the Steam lift, am I wrong in this, Jay, that the games that were also on Steam the saves didn't sync?
I believe they did, but I don't know if you remember this was around the transition when Steam or Valve started actively using the Steam Guard, and they didn't have not the grasp, but it was still kind of like in a beta stage, I guess you could say. So you would get random pop-up notifications while you're playing a Steam title in Cloudlift, and it would kick you off saying that you have multiple IPs or something like that logged, something like that.
Wow.
And it was a real issue. Yeah.
I remember
They
that.
had a good idea concept, but it wasn't really well played.
Because you kind of had to play by Valve's rules, because you're playing their games and you're giving away their CD keys to the games on their platform.
Am I right that OnLive did OnLive get permission from Valve to do this, or is this kind of a murky?
I don't recall. It's been a while.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
But again, it's. I think it is just such a telling thing, and I think for me, the idea of being able to offload the actual processing of the games into, so you don't have to own a gaming PC. You can just play the titles that you want to play on effectively what, for all intents and purposes, someone else's very fancy data center PC. And, again, without knowing exactly what OnLive we're using tech stack wise, I mean, it's clear, like, obviously, GeForce Now will use NVIDIA's data center level GPUs. Mm-hmm. I know, for example, that Shadow, which is, again, this cloud PC, they can put up to give you a virtual machine that has the equivalent of a 3070 and an AMD EPYC.
Wow.
Which is an insane thing to have in the cloud. But I guess what makes a good cloud gaming solution, because you've talked about lag, you've talked about controller issues. What makes it? What are the key? Let me phrase this in the right way. What would you say are maybe the key things that you need to have done right for cloud gaming to work?
I would think a solid infrastructure. It needs to work. Dependability, mobility, portability. With the Steam Deck out now, and even I think it was like Asus with whatever they're releasing. And
the ROG Ally, yeah.
Mobile is just as strong as it probably ever has been, and the DS and Nintendo aren't by themselves anymore. They have competition. So if cloud, didn't Sony just announce a cloud-based mobile device?
Well, that's interesting. Sorry, Jay, B.
Oh no, you're right. Yeah,
because it's not cloud-based.
Oh,
it is effectively a controller and a screen for PlayStation Remote Play.
Remote Play, like what Steam does with, I think, Steam Link, maybe?
Yeah. But the idea is you're going to need your PS5 on and connected to the internet. It's not going to, you need a PS5 to get this thing.
So there's a huge, so you need to at least invest in a PlayStation 5, which for some folks might be a heavy investment, to be able to play a mobile device.
So, and you need to then have the PlayStation 5 online. It's not... I would like the ROG Ally, which I believe is focused on Xbox Game Pass titles. That is cloud gaming, and the Logitech G Cloud.
Oh yes, the I think it's Logi Cloud, because I think.
Oh, Logi, yeah, Logi.
Yeah,
G Cloud, yeah.
Logi Cloud, yeah. Oh yeah, Logitech G Cloud. Yeah, and I think one thing because I have used the Vita, which I think is in my opinion, is a predecessor Vita Remote Play to the PS5's. I forget the name of the new handheld from Sony.
I
forgot what they call it. Yeah,
and I would always find that like a service like OnLive was more reliable because I'm getting it from data
center,
Whereas if it's my own hosted computer, even like SSHing into my Mac, even connecting into my Mac remotely is much slower than if my Mac was hosted in the cloud. And I think remote play and stuff like that gets constrained. I mean, even Steam Link. I've done Steam Link over the internet, and it's a lot slower and you have to deal with like port forwarding and all this other
but
stuff.
The last thing that I think or one of the final things that I think that it should be reliant on is you need a solid community and following, and you just need that solidity and solidarity of the people that are backing you, that will stick by you.
Yes.
If developers and publishers nowadays, that's what they're looking for. They're looking for people and companies with causes, stories, things like that. And if a cloud gaming service had a supportive community, I think that the hurdle of signing up developers and publishers to release their content on that cloud gaming service would be much easier, because I believe that that's a hurdle that a lot of the cloud companies are having right now. And that's being able to port over those AAA titles that people are asking for, because the publishers they don't seem to be giving them up too easy, especially with their own cloud gaming services now available.
This is true. You can't play. The only way to play Minecraft, for example, on the cloud is to have, I think it's Game Pass Ultimate, to have the PC edition.
Yeah. And I know like Activision Blizzard, before they were bought, before they're being bought by Microsoft, was banning the use of their games and their on cloud services like Liquid Sky and Shadow and all that, because those services you can bring anything that you want to it, but and I'm going to guess that they're probably going to work with Xbox xCloud at some point. But yeah.
I don't know how they're doing it, but Boosteroid has had Overwatch 2 for a very long time since it released, I think. And I think that they might be one of the only legit cloud gaming services with Overwatch 2 on.
I'd not even heard of them, because I see them. I see Fortnite, Rocket League. Okay. And run PC games on low level, outdated, or ultra portable Mac, Linux OS, iOS, Android, Chrome OS, or smart TVs.
It was, I believe, it was browser based.
Oh, interesting. This is interesting. So they're doing a very similar thing. So they're doing this without downloads. This is cool. So it works through a browser. It is bring your own game. So you can bring Steam, Epic, and more. No, it runs in a browser. No session time limits. Stream your gameplay to YouTube. This is a very interesting service. Yeah,
because that's something that I was hoping that like Amazon Luna, and it may be that way. I have not invested into Amazon Luna and looked into it as much as I thought, because I'm scared of cloud gaming services because of what happened on OnLive. But I was hoping with like Stadia that you could be able to play a game on Stadia and stream. Obviously, I would love to have them stream to Twitch, but I know that they stream to YouTube. But yeah, that's very interesting, because if you can take off because that is another thing to think about too. If people are streaming and they're already using their upload and download for streaming, to add that in for cloud gaming, unless you have fiber, like full symmetrical fiber, can be incredibly taxing on your.
Yeah, get rid of that coax and just go straight fiber optic.
Yeah. Don't talk to me about getting fiber installed. Thank you.
Same. My parents' house has fiber, and I'm no longer living
have fiber.
there.
I love it.
No, I'm trying. There's a lot of issues, but it is very interesting. Again, this whole for me, what I'm seeing here, looking at like Boosteroid, the idea is look. This is, let's see, this one is 8. So this is British pricing, Euro pricing. Sorry, €9.89 a month. So about €10 a month, roughly. Okay, so that means that in a year it's 120 euros. That means that how long would that? So let's say if it's equivalent to a decent gaming PC, that means it's probably going to take you 5 years, maybe, to be at the point where you spent more on the cloud gaming subscription than you have on building a half-decent PC. And this intrigues me because, as someone who had an out-of-date Mac, and certainly I'll use my nephew as an example here. He had a really, really bad laptop for a while. He's actually got a much better laptop now, but cloud gaming would have been perfect for him because the advantages of not having to worry about the hardware requirements, like, the cloud gaming service can handle it. That's a big draw,
Absolutely.
right?
I mean, it's I think they used to say that you could run this on a potato. I mean, like you were able to run services like OnLive on just about anything, and they were referring to it as the Netflix of gaming at one point. So if Boosteroid can somehow keep a good relationship with Blizzard and all them, and just keep those titles on the service. And as long as Blizzard keeps delivering what they are, and like Diablo 4, I'm seeing nothing but people loving it. Boosteroid might, boost. They might do really well in the future.
And yeah, I think the biggest thing is getting that developer support, and I think a lot of these services are starting to fix the issue of getting developers support if they can run it more natively. Because that was one of OnLive's biggest things. Is it took? I mean, I remember like only some games I was able to buy day and date of release, but other ones were like, we'll have it OnLive next year or in a year or two.
Well, that's some similar experience I'm having with GeForce Now, which is what I'm using primarily for my cloud services right now. For example, Evil Dead, the game. They have a release date for it. They say it's going to release on GeForce Now on the same exact date. GeForce Now says, oh, it's not out yet. You ask them, do you have an ETA? They have absolutely no idea. You ask the developer, the publisher, they also have no idea. And you're running in circles. If you want to play the game on launch night, sometimes you're SOL.
Yeah. And does GeForce Now go through their own marketplace, or do they go through like Steam or one of the other marketplaces?
If you have certain Steam games that you own, certain Uplay games that you own, and certain Epic games that you own, I think those are the supported, not Origin or anything like that yet.
So you have at least backup if that service goes away.
Yeah, you have to already own it. They don't sell games at all in GeForce Now. They'll give you like a hyperlink to click on, and they redirect you to the launcher for that title, and you purchase it through them.
That is something that I going forward I want in any cloud service, because I want to make sure that if it goes off, if it goes sideways, I still have the ability to get that. Because I mean, Steam. I opened up my Steam Deck in November, and immediately every single game that's still on the service that I can download since the beginning of time is there. Yeah, I was like, this is Half-Life 2 that I bought. I signed up for Steam for the Half-Life 2, and it's still there. And I bought this when I was 12.
And that's a huge thing. Is that for all Valve may have, Valve have the problems, but they don't. They do keep games available now. It is an interesting one. This concept again. I'm just looking through some of the things like. Oh, pardon me. So Boosteroid. Again, they've got maybe seem to have an agreement because they've got some games that are free. They don't sell games. So it's free with your subscription, but per purchase games you have to buy through the store. I mean, I guess they've got agreements on which games they can put on the platform. GeForce Now, as you said, effectively is just a way to play games that you already own. And there's so many different variants here. Again, it's one thing I am very curious about is this hybrid approach where Nintendo are doing this, for example, at the moment on the Switch. Is it? I think the ones I know about, Control and the Hitman series, are what they call cloud editions. Now, from what I understand, that is basically saying, well, we know the Switch doesn't have the hardware performance to run these games. So what we're going to do is we're going to give you effectively a launcher on the Switch. You buy an access pass, and then you play the game effectively on our servers. You're still playing it through your Switch, but all the rendering is done on their data centers. But that's not really cloud gaming service. That's just a way of getting around hardware limitations on the Switch.
I would consider it to be some sort of boost.
Actually, James, is I may actually real quick intervene right here. Like when you were actually saying about the pass, you're referring to the Microsoft service, right?
What for Control and for
correct
the Switch?
No. So when you get, for example, Hitman, you don't buy it through the eShop directly. What you do is you download it, you get to test it to make sure it works, because they're very keen on that. And then you buy an access pass to that game, I think through the eShop still, but it's effectively, you don't own... I don't quite understand how it works, but it's not the same as buying an eShop game. You're effectively... Because they could pull that at any point, unlike if you've got... So, for example, if I've got my Mario Kart card, that's mine. Yes. I can play that. Might not be able to play it online, but I can play the game.
Whereas Control, because I've looked into this, it is a cloud gaming service, like a data center, but it's specifically for that. And you're required to play online, so you can't play it like on an airplane or a train. And if that service goes away, I think they guarantee for a certain period, that kind of like whatever their runway is for the service.
Yes, they will pretty much advertise, hey, by the way, guys, we're pulling this one out. It'll be available to anybody for this amount of time, as long as you paid it, you bought it within this period. Oh, I mean, you paid for it during this period.
But is it? Well, I keep thinking when you were talking about how they use the cloud to make up for maybe a graphical hardware limitation on the Switch. It kind of reminds me of, I believe it's the new Asus portable that has maybe a docking station or something like that. And there's also an external GPU that you could plug. The thing looks like a big hunk of metal. You plug into it and it gives it a graphical boost. And I think that's maybe like the local equivalent of a cloud-based version of what Switch is doing.
Well, I mean, you're saying in reality, when you actually do use a cloud service, and there are quite a few of them out there, and they all actually describe their services, to appeal to the community so that they can actually be, hey, I'm here for you. But in reality, the cloud service, yes, that's exactly, not only you are actually able to not need to purchase CDs and actually take the space in your computer. That's the whole purpose of the cloud service. But yes, there are cloud services like, game, what do you call,
Game Pass?
Not the Game Pass, the NVIDIA GeForce.
Yeah, GeForce now.
When you actually do use it, they do actually, depending on the pay service, you're using their GPU interface for, so that you can eliminate the possibility that you are not going to be able to play it locally within your PC. So, yes, not most cloud services, they do actually provide that. Not necessarily they actually advertise it, but it is there. And that's one of the main reasons to actually use cloud gaming. You yourself introduced me to the GeForce service, and I couldn't be happier with the fact that I'm able to play certain games on the cloud when my PC, even though I have a good gaming PC, is 5 years old. Should be old? No. But obviously, again, there's always something new. So there are some games that, should I be able to play them with no problem? Absolutely. But for some odd reason, I'm not able to. But with the GeForce, it's like, wow, it's like much faster than actually have it installed locally.
Why do we think some companies like Apple? I mean, Apple could probably wipe the board with all their data centers and all that. I also know Apple might be able to utilize some other services, but why do they avoid cloud gaming? Because it would make sense that it would be a great add-in, and they wouldn't have to worry about like their Mac gaming issues, kind of like the fact that they're trying to get developer support for Mac gaming. If they could just cloud stream in the processing, why do you think they avoid cloud gaming?
Oh, I personally think is several factors. Is the financial factor. It is actually, it's if most likely, if you yourself think about it, does it make sense now to make the financial investment to actually start developing not developing, but improving of a technology that's already been there for many years now? Does it make sense to actually be in that competition? That will be one. Financially will be another one. And, it's one thing that is you are not going to what you call bet something that is you can afford to lose it, and then go ahead and actually go for it. Are they really going to take that chance? I don't believe that. Two, I mean more like three. Their software, everything that they actually have within their software is proprietary to them. To actually think that they will have a cloud service system, that means not only that they will have to give access on their contracts to all of these gaming companies so that they can go ahead and actually have access to a program that is being proprietary to Apple. So now there is more individuals that they are going to be able to actually have access to an engine that is always being for Apple.
I feel that expenses is the number one, and not just because it costs a tremendous amount of money for multiple an infinite amount of data centers throughout the entire world. Forget the cloud gaming aspect. They're going to need exclusives. This is going to be an investment in creating their own development company. I mean, Stadia tried it; they scrapped it. This is not just an investment in cloud gaming. This is an investment in creating your own gaming development company from the ground up. And they may not want to roll that die and take that risk right now, when they can rely on services like NVIDIA, GeForce Now, Boosteroid, and all the other ones that are currently available. Shadow,
Yeah, because because they even like making I know that they've invested in a little bit in like Apple Arcade, but even then that's local games, and a lot of those are developers that already making games that they just say, hey, bring it to your service.
I haven't touched a Mac in forever. I mean, I know like when you and I were on OnLive Fans, there were countless threads of people just bad mouthing Mac and talking about how they wanted to use OnLive on the Mac, and how there were even like Wine dedicated threads where people were running Wine on Linux and things like that. Like, I haven't touched a Mac in forever. Have they progressed regarding playing games since then? Like, is there a substantial amount of games that are playable on the Mac now?
I would definitely say there's more. More. Yeah, there's more. Apple Arcade. They keep trying to get developer support, but they're not getting enough support, in my opinion, to get enough market share. Because like they at the latest WWDC announced game mode and some improvements to porting and all that, but it's still trying to court the developers. And they had a fight with Epic, which hurts a little bit of their Unreal support.
I was going to say, based on like commercials and observations and stuff like that, like Microsoft for Windows tries to push for, like they had a commercial or an ad where it was people playing a racing game on Windows 11, and it seems that they try to at least dedicate some of their marketing towards a demographic that is gaming. Apple, you don't really see that. They cater more to a professional or influencers or people who are creators, and not necessarily people who are just going to be playing games. If they're going to be playing games, then they're probably playing one like Fortnite or something like that they're going to be streaming to Twitch and things like that, which I don't know if Fortnite's readily available on Mac. I'm guessing it is. Oh, oh no.
Well, yeah. Actually, real quick, think about another reason why Apple may not actually want to really get into the gaming. Is you think about it within their own operating system versus Microsoft. I like my iPhone, but I rather actually have a Windows PC than a Mac PC or an iPad or anything like that. And there is one big difference between the two. When you're using Microsoft will continue developing their operating systems and updating them, and along the line, you can still have that OS as long as your computer can actually support the minimum requirements for it. So you can go ahead and actually play all these video games, and all of a sudden Windows 11, Windows 12 is going to come out down the line. You're still going to be able to use those games on those computers because the hardware still supports the operating system, while Apple, on the other hand, they continuously keep upgrading their hardware, but they'll go ahead and scrap a specific amount of operating systems to the point where they are no longer supported. Past this particular model is no longer supported. So their operating systems are actually put to pasture much faster than the hardware itself. So if you were to actually buy a game, it will force them to continuously keep upgrading their operating system for those people who buys games so that they can continuously still support the people who have the older versions of PCs.
It's an interesting take. I mean, so Apple they move a lot faster than Microsoft do to end of life versions of macOS. But also Windows 10 and Windows 11 are a little bit different to macOS in terms of how they're supported, because yes, you're 100% right. So Apple's unofficial policy has always tended to be that they will support the current version of OS. So at the moment, that's Ventura. Later this year, that'll be Sonoma. And then typically they'll provide security versions for current and 2 back. Now that is typically 3 years. If your device can't run the latest version of macOS, you tend to have 2 to 3 years of additional life before there's any, and that's assuming they don't do security updates randomly, because they can. The problem is that people assume that means Microsoft keep Windows 10 supported a lot longer. That's not quite the case. What Microsoft tend to do more is they'll kill off older versions of Windows 10. So, for example, I don't know where we stand at the moment. I will put a link to the Microsoft support, but they will kill, for example, 1804 or 1810. They did really. I think at the moment, are we at 20? Maybe we're at 23H1 right now. Whatever they do weird number schemes, but those are what gets killed off and unsupported. I would say still slower than Apple because they've got a lot more enterprise customers. But Windows 10, if you have a PC running Windows 10 from say 5 years ago, that version of Windows 10 will not be supported. But the current version of Windows 10 will. Does that make more sense?
Oh no, I understand. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but you are right. And Apple, the problem with Apple in gaming, their hardware for years was not good enough to run games. Look, this iMac that I'm on right now, beautiful machine, 27-inch 5K, 64 gig of RAM. It's got a quad-core i7-7700K, as we talked about before, and it's got an 8 gig Radeon Pro 580. On paper, and indeed in Windows, this is a really decent little gaming machine. But because developers aren't on board, and because it's so much work to port games to a Mac at the moment, the hardware and the cooling on these is not good. But when you start talking about what they've done with the Apple Silicon stuff, those Apple Silicon chips can blow high-end Windows gaming PCs out of the water. But again, the problem is developers are not interested in working on Apple's platform yet. I will be very interested to see what the result of this game porting toolkit they've just announced this week will actually be. Whether it is a Steam Deck level compatibility tool that will shake up gaming support on Mac. But cloud gaming, they've got Apple Arcade. They've got Switch-like casual gaming across all their devices.
And Jay, I think you brought up an interesting point because James about the support, and I think Windows has a huge loyal fan base of gamers. I remember when I got into streaming more, they said go Windows, get a PC, go gaming PC, and one reason OnLive was successful was it had a community. I mean, even the Online Fans Forum, I think, sold a lot of people, because I remember when I was looking at OnLive, I looked at the Online Fans Forum, saw there were people there, and I downloaded the trial. It was immediately in Xbox Cloud. So I think, yeah, Apple doesn't want to get into it because they're struggling already to get into gaming. And I think the expense, because Apple has money in their bank, but they don't try to spend it foolishly, if that makes sense. Not that the cloud gaming service out here, but Stadia, Google realized, we need to put our cloud infrastructure into the behind the scenes. So I know Stadia is used elsewhere enterprise wise, but is no longer consumer facing. And I know Amazon probably doesn't care as much because Amazon probably corners the market on Amazon Web Services. They adding a little bit of extra money for Amazon Luna that they can kind of write off doesn't really affect them at the end of the day. Microsoft with Azure probably can write off.
Oh, they can write off xCloud as the amount of income they will get from Azure or whatever is huge, and them developing cloud gaming under the Xbox brand only helps them sell more. Think about it. If you buy a Surface Go, for example, one of their cheaper laptops, then what you bundle in is, oh, hey, here's Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with xCloud. Don't worry that this thing's got virtually no graphics performance. You can still play all the games as long as you've got an internet connection.
Yep.
And and Microsoft is the only way right now. Well, actually, no, I have to look at Booster Right. I can't say the only way, but it's one of the only ways to play Fortnite on the iPhone because you can literally, and I think Microsoft even writes off access to Fortnite for free. Obviously, because the in-app purchases and the V-Bucks go through Microsoft services, so they're going to make money there. But you can play Fortnite for free without having xCloud subscription on the iPhone. And I know a lot of people who play it that way. So, yeah.
Is there an iOS version of GeForce Now that you could play Fortnite on? I think that they did that for Fortnite on Android, so you could play it on there. You could use GeForce Now.
Oh, 1 second. Let's have a look. I looked at this because I looked at the iPad. I think there is. Give me 1 second.
I know it was in beta. I don't know if it was a closed beta for a bit or not.
I did want to, because I looked at that before I looked at all sorts of ways of doing gaming.
There's, at least here, there's Shield TV. I'm in the UK App Store, so it may not be that they launched it in the UK.
Oh, Shield TV is a different thing.
No, it would be under GeForce Now.
Oh no, the NVIDIA Shield TV lets you log into your favorite Shield Now games on Shield TV. Oh, okay. Never mind.
That's for controlling the Shield TV.
Yeah, so it may not be launched in the UK because that is one thing.
Well, hang on. Are you on your iPhone?
I'm on my iPhone.
They may have made it iPad only because you can do that. What's this? Cloudy full screen. Interesting.
iOS Safari. Okay, so it's through Safari on iOS.
Right. Oh, yes, because Apple have not yet allowed those sort of services into the App Store.
And I know a lot of that has been advances in WebKit and stuff like that. If OnLive could have had that through Safari, it may have got it. Because I can't remember if xCloud's officially there. So I obviously know that there's so much more we could talk about, but I want to end on some just a closing question. Are we any better than when OnLive was around? And where do we see do we see the future being there, or is it kind of a sky high pipe dream, if you will, to use a cloud terminology?
I think I feel that there's been progress regarding certain aspects. I think that there's features that were available back around OnLive days that still have yet to get properly implemented and used and taken advantage of. And that could be due to, many different reasons, privacy concerns, security, things like that. I think that cloud gaming is going to be with us forever. I think that it's just going to be jammed down our throats until we finally give in and accept it. I've heard so many people, rumors of the next PlayStation is going to be fully cloud and things like that. I mean, it's bound to eventually happen. But the weirder things have happened, though. I mean, vinyl is coming back and more popular than ever. I mean, who knows if physical media, for games for consoles, is going to blow up in the future and just might leave cloud in the dust, and we might just forget it, and it might become an archaic concept. I have no idea.
I was listening to Slopes Game Room today on a documentary about some stuff, and there's actually some developers who are not making digital games anymore. I know that's digital download games, but there are some developers who are making games physically for a limited run physical media, and they're not doing digital downloads, which is kind of mind blowing that like developers are forgoing a digital thing for that very reason. I mean, and yeah, I'm with you. I think it should be here forever. Who knows if it's going to be in the same way that I mean, who knows if Google will turn around and be like, hey, we're back. Please. We're back again.
Yeah, it's evolutionary. That's how it is. It was just actually what you call simple green screen games. First a few cancels, and what you call it was games in CDs, then DVDs, then was actually downloadable content, and now there is a cloud. So it's just continuously keep moving forward.
But one thing I will say that I'm very grateful that we are better at across kind of everything is the concept of cloud saves.
Yes.
The ability to save games like Breath of the Wild. Now, we haven't started playing Tears of Kingdom yet because we haven't bought it. But the point being, if something ever happened to my Switch, I know that my Breath of the Wild save is safe. I know that my Subnautica saves are now, because when they debut update Subnautica, they fully embraced Steam's cloud save because apparently it was problematic. Well, that made it a lot easier to come from the Mac version I had onto because me and Jay both have, as many of you know, both have Steam Decks. But that sort of connectivity is brilliant. Also, I think for me, one thing I really like is how well, again, barring the issues of ownership and like, you know, what happens if Steam were ever to shut down, Steam has done so much for making games easy to purchase and easy to uninstall a game because it's taking up too much space, but still be confident that your game's there in the store and your save data's there.
It has to do with, they have a really good launcher. I mean, how many iterations have they really made? I mean, it really still kind of resembles the original one from, back in the day. I mean, and it's, like you said, ease of use. It couldn't be more simpler to purchase a game and uninstall it using the Steam launcher.
Yeah.
It really does work, yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see the future. I mean, I a lot of the speculation is because it's like we still don't know where it is. I'm going to say that I'm going to be very skeptical of a service that doesn't let me own the game. And I would probably say that seems like one of the things that a lot of games have learned. I mean, Stadia, from what I understand, is refund everybody who's bought games there, which is pretty incredible by Google standard. I mean, that they had the one, the capital to refund that, but two, the fact that they're like, hey, we're not going to do this. So here you go back. And they even unlocked the controller to be used as a Bluetooth thing. That was like my OnLive controllers are just sitting collecting dust. I own probably like 6.
I hate to be that person in that voice, but I mean, it's kind of sad on the other hand that it's come to the point where we think it's kind of like admirable that such a large company that Google took the time to refund everyone for the content that they purchased and spent money on that they no longer have access to. Like, it's not like they don't have the funds to refund everybody. It should have been a given. And the fact that like a lot of people were impressed by it. I mean, I sound very kind of bitter about it, but it's like, it should have been a given. It should have been a given that they would have done it. And the fact that we feel that we're kind of, it's a special thing that they refunded everybody. I don't know. I think they should have done it without question, but they did, and that is admirable. Just I think I don't know.
I'm with you. It feels weird to be thanking a company. Yeah, like I'll be honest. I was excited for Stadia. I was hesitant. I kept thinking, when's it going to happen? Mm-hmm. When are they going to close down? But I'm like, for a company that they actually did no evil, they were like, hey, we're gonna give you your money back and all that. And I think I want to also say thank you to you both for coming on, joining us in our cloud, and being here. Where can we find you both on the? I always like to say this phrase from Podcast days. Where can we find you on the interwebs?
Well, we have our business is Thoughtable Network. And you could check us out there at thoughtable.io. And we are on Twitter I'll just give you the contact info to post if you don't mind, because I can't remember it off the top of my head. But we also have a Discord server and all this other stuff. But Thoughtable.io, everything should be up.
And James, and James and Jay and Omega, any closing thoughts just as we wrap up? I mean, any final thoughts?
No, other than this has been a lot of fun. It's been really interesting to get a glimpse of what cloud gaming used to be. And Jay, at some point, you need to find my OnLive micro console, and we need to. I think we need to get some photos of that for some stuff. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah,
as long as I haven't thrown it at all.
Every time I ask somebody that says they have one, if I think it's sent it to me, they're like, "But I'm using it as a doorstop." I'm like, "Damn."
No, how dare they?
And
Jay, I think you should donate. I think you should donate yours to Jay.
I will. If I find it, you will definitely get it. And I think with that, I am going to terminate our cloud connection and roll the outro.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Crosswires. We hope you've enjoyed our discussion, and we'd love to hear your thoughts. So please drop us a note over to podcast@crosswires.net.
You can also drop us a comment on the post, or if you're a GoodPod user, why not start a discussion there too?
You can also join our new Discord server at crosswires.net/Discord. We've got forum channels for each episode, and we'd love you to join the discussion there.
You can also follow us on Mastodon at Crosswires at mastodon.social.
And of course, you can find the show in all the good podcast apps, and all the really bad ones too.
More of our content, head on over to crosswires.net/YouTube for all our videos, and keep an eye on our Twitch channel at crosswires.net/live for our upcoming streams.
If you like what you've heard, please do drop a review in your podcast directory of choice. It really does help spread the word about the show.
And of course, if you can spare even the smallest amount of financial support, we'd be incredibly grateful. You can support us at ko-fi.com/crosswires. That is ko-fi.com/crosswires.
Until next time, thanks for listening.